The stars shimmered as massive ships emerged from hyperspace near Neptune. Commander Thexol stood on the bridge of the Vorian flagship, looking at the scan results with barely concealed boredom. Another primitive world. Another easy conquest. Admiral Vecnor, the survey is complete, Thexol reported. The third planet contains the dominant species. They call themselves humans. Technology level is primitive. Chemical rockets. Nuclear fission. No shields. No plasma weapons. Admiral Vecnor nodded slowly. He had conquered 847 worlds for the Vorian Empire. This would be number 848. Expected resistance time? 72 hours, sir. Perhaps less. On Earth, Colonel Hyunwoo Kang stared at his monitor in disbelief. The readings made no sense at first. Then everything became terrifyingly clear. Ships. Alien ships. Hundreds of them. Sitting at the edge of the solar system like predators watching prey. He grabbed his phone and called President Una Park directly. Madam President, we have a situation. Within 3 hours, every government on Earth knew the truth. Humanity was not alone in the universe, and whoever had arrived was not friendly. President Una Park stood before the Emergency United Nations Assembly. For the first time in human history, every nation faced the same threat. Old enemies looked at each other with new understanding. If aliens came to conquer, humanity needed to stand together. We don't know what they want, President Park said, but we know they're here. We must prepare for anything. Captain Minho Lee floated in the orbital defense platform Sejong Station, watching the alien ships move closer. His station had railguns and missiles, but the alien vessels ignored him completely. They moved past his weapons range like he didn't exist. It made him feel small and powerless. The Vorian scout ships scanned every major city, every military base, every power plant. They recorded everything with casual efficiency. The humans had satellites and space stations, but nothing that could threaten a Vorian warship. The shields alone could withstand anything these primitives might throw. They're studying us, Dr. Ji-Young Choi said, watching the data streams at CERN, like scientists studying insects. Admiral Vecnor reviewed the final reports. The humans had fragmented governments, hundreds of nations, dozens of languages. They fought each other constantly. Divided species never resisted effectively. This would be simple. Prepare demonstration strike, Vecnor ordered. Uninhabited area. Show them our power. They'll surrender immediately. The Vorian warship positioned itself over Australia. The outback stretched below, empty and vast, perfect for a demonstration. The plasma cannon charged with a sound like thunder. Then it fired. The beam struck the desert with the force of 1,000 nuclear weapons. 50 square kilometers simply vanished, turned to glass and ash in seconds. The shockwave registered on seismographs worldwide. President Una Park watched the footage with cold eyes. The message was clear. Surrender or die. But she didn't surrender. Instead, she made a call. Get me every scientist, every general, every engineer. Now. Dr. Ji-Young Choi studied the energy readings from the blast. Her team worked through the night, analyzing every detail. There had to be something useful. Some weakness, some pattern. Major Sun-Woo Kim coordinated with military leaders across the world. American, Russian, Chinese, European, African forces all shared intelligence for the first time. If they were going to die, they would die fighting. The Vorian Empire sent Earth a simple message in mathematical language. Surrender. Join the Empire. Resist and be destroyed. President Park's response was equally simple. No. Admiral Vecnor couldn't believe it. Primitives never refused after a demonstration strike. Never. In 847 conquests, it had never failed. These humans were either brave or stupid. Probably stupid. Begin invasion, Vecnor commanded, but only use 30% of our forces. Save the rest for the next conquest. This won't take long. The dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. They landed in major cities across the planet. New York, Moscow, Beijing, Seoul, London, Mumbai, Cairo, São Paulo. Vorian soldiers emerged in their powered armor, weapons ready. Lieutenant Daehyun Song watched the dropships land in Seoul's Uido district. His hands shook as he held his rifle. The aliens were here. Actually, here. His commander's orders echoed in his mind. Delay them, observe them, learn their weaknesses. The Vorian soldiers moved with professional efficiency. They had done this 847 times before. Deploy, secure, advance. The humans would scatter and hide like all primitives did. But something was wrong. The humans didn't scatter. They fired from buildings, from sewers, from underground tunnels. Bullets bounced off Vorian shields, but the attacks kept coming. Coordinated, planned, disciplined. Sergeant Minji Han led civilians through Seoul's subway system. The underground had become an evacuation route and supply line. The aliens controlled the streets above, but below ground belonged to humanity. Daehyun Song's unit hit a Vorian patrol with everything they had. Rifles, grenades, rocket launchers. The shields held easily. But Daehyun noticed something. When the shields were hit hard, they flickered. Just for a moment. Then they came back stronger. He reported this to command. Every unit started watching for the flicker. Dr. Ji-young Choi received combat footage from 100 battles. She saw the pattern immediately. The shields had a reset cycle. 0.3 seconds where they dropped to recharge. It was a tiny window, but it existed. She sent the information to every military on Earth. Hit them during the reset. Concentrate your fire. Within 24 hours, human tactics changed. Soldiers stopped shooting continuously. They watched, waited, learned the timing, then fired everything at once during the reset window. Vorian soldiers started dying. Commander Thexall reviewed the casualty reports with growing concern. 8% losses in 72 hours. That was impossible. Primitives didn't kill Vorians. Primitives surrendered. Admiral, they're learning our shield frequencies, Thexall reported. They're adapting their tactics. This is highly unusual. Admiral Vecnor dismissed the concern. Increase ground forces. End this quickly. But in Moscow, Captain Taman Volkov was already implementing new tactics. Drones, missiles, and artillery fired in synchronized waves, all timed to hit during shield resets. The Vorian advance stopped. In New York, in Mumbai, in Cairo, the same story repeated. Humans fought with desperate intelligence. They learned fast, adapted faster, used terrain and knowledge of their own cities against invaders who expected easy victory. President Una Park addressed the world from a secure bunker. Her face was calm, but her words were steel. They expected us to break. They don't understand. Humanity has never known how to quit. In orbit, Admiral Vecnor made a decision. If the primitives wouldn't surrender on the ground, he would force surrender from space. He ordered orbital bombardment of military targets. Captain Minho Lee saw the targeting lasers lock onto Sejong Station. He had seconds. He uploaded everything his station had learned about Vorian ship movements to Earth. Then the plasma beam hit. Minho Lee died instantly. But his data survived. Across Earth, millions died in the orbital bombardment. Military bases, communication centers, ports, all destroyed from space. The Vorians demonstrated their overwhelming power. But humanity didn't break. They buried their dead and kept fighting. Every factory retooled for war production. Every scientist worked on weapons. Every soldier learned from yesterday's battles. Admiral Vecnor expected mass surrender. Instead, human resistance intensified. For the first time in his long career, Vecnor felt uncertain. These primitives were wrong. They didn't behave like primitives at all. They behaved like warriors. The orbital bombardment changed everything. Not in the way Admiral Vecnor expected. He thought fear would make humans surrender. Instead, it made them angry. Major Suman Ryu stood in a bunker complex deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Above her, Colorado burned from orbital strikes. Down here, humanity was building something new. Every screen showed factories converting to war production. Car plants made missiles now. Electronics factories made targeting computers. 3D printing facilities made guns. "We're ramping up faster than projected," one engineer reported. "Every nation is contributing. We've never seen cooperation like this." Suman smiled grimly. "The aliens gave us a common enemy. That's their first mistake." In Seoul, Lieutenant Dae-hyun Song crawled through rubble toward a downed Vorian soldier. The alien was dead, killed when concentrated fire overwhelmed its shield. Dae-hyun grabbed the plasma rifle from its hands. The weapon was warm, almost alive. This was technology beyond anything Earth had. He radioed command. "I have an intact weapon, requesting immediate extraction for analysis." Across the world, other soldiers were doing the same. Every piece of Vorian technology became precious. Every weapon, every piece of armor, every device was sent to scientists for study. Engineer Junho Park had never seen anything like the plasma rifle on his examination table. It worked on principles that shouldn't be possible, but Junho didn't care about should or shouldn't. He cared about could. Could he copy it? Could he make it work? 3 weeks later, the first human-made plasma weapon fired successfully. It was crude. It overheated quickly. It had half the power of the Vorian original. But it worked. Production began immediately. Commander Kyung-soo Jang sat in the pilot seat of a converted cargo ship. Behind him, welded to the hull, were 6 nuclear warheads. His mission was simple and suicidal. Get close to Vorian supply ships, detonate, die. He wasn't alone. 50 other civilian spacecraft had been converted the same way. Volunteers only. Every ship had a full crew. Nobody expected to come back. "This is Kyung-soo to all ships," he transmitted. "For Earth, for humanity. Let's make them remember us." The improvised attack fleet launched from hidden positions across the solar system. They moved slowly, looking like debris or asteroids. The Vorian supply convoy didn't detect the threat until too late. Kyung-soo's ship slammed into a Vorian transport. The nuclear explosion lit up space. 50 other ships did the same across the convoy. When the light faded, the Vorian logistics chain was crippled. Commander Thexol watched the disaster unfold. "Admiral, we've lost 17 supply ships. The primitives used suicide attacks. We didn't anticipate such tactics." Admiral Vecnor slammed his fist on the command console. "Primitives don't use suicide tactics. Primitives surrender." But these primitives didn't surrender. They learned. They adapted. They sacrificed. Dr. Nari Tanaka worked in a secret facility beneath Tokyo. She led Project Prometheus, humanity's desperate gamble. The Vorian Empire took centuries to develop their technology. Humanity didn't have centuries. They had months at best. So Nari used quantum computers and artificial intelligence to speed up everything. She fed every piece of Vorian technology into the system. The AI analyzed, tested, simulated. What took the Vorians generations, the AI solved in weeks. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't perfect, but it worked. "We have a working plasma cannon prototype," Nari reported to President Yuna Park. "Ground-based, it can target ships in low orbit." President Park's eyes widened. "How soon until deployment?" 2 weeks for the first unit. We're already building 6 more." The first human plasma cannon fired from a hidden installation in Norway. The blue beam cut through the sky and struck a Vorian frigate. The ship's shields held for 3 seconds. Then they collapsed. The frigate broke apart in a cascade of explosions. In his flagship, Admiral Vecnor stared at the tactical display in shock. The primitives had just destroyed a Vorian warship with ground-based weapons. That should be impossible. They'd been fighting for less than 4 months. This advancement rate violated everything the Vorian Empire knew about technological development. Thexol's voice was quiet with fear. "Admiral, I recommend requesting reinforcements from the Imperial Council. These humans are not like other species." Vecnor wanted to refuse, wanted to prove he could handle this with the forces he had. But pride was for peacetime. In war, you survived by making smart choices. "Send the request," he ordered. "Ask for the Second Conquest Fleet." On Earth, the war ground on. Vorian forces held territory in every major city, but controlling territory meant nothing when the enemy wouldn't quit. Sergeant Minji Han led resistance fighters through Seoul's underground tunnels. They struck at night, hitting supply depots and communication centers, then vanishing before the Vorians could respond. The aliens learned to fear the dark in human cities. Humans owned the night. Dr. Ji-Young Choi made another breakthrough. By studying the Vorian hyperspace drives on captured ships, her team created Earth's first faster-than-light missile. It was unstable. It had a 40% failure rate, but 60% of the time, it could strike targets in the outer solar system. Colonel Sun Woo Kim approved Operation Retribution immediately. 50 FTL missiles launched toward Vorian staging areas near Jupiter's moons. 30 missiles failed, tumbling uselessly into space. 20 reached their targets. The Vorian supply bases near Jupiter erupted in nuclear fire. Support stations that had operated in safety for months suddenly became war zones. The Vorians realized with horror that nowhere in the solar system was safe anymore. In the ruins of Mumbai, Corporal Yoonji Kowalski fought with a plasma rifle built in a factory that made tractors 3 months ago. She was Korean-Polish, born in Warsaw, fighting in India. That was Earth now. Borders didn't matter. Nationality didn't matter. Only species mattered. Human versus Vorian. The Vorian soldier she faced had better armor, better training, centuries of military tradition. Yoonji had rage and a copied plasma weapon. She fired 3 bursts during the shield reset cycle. The Vorian fell. Territory secured, she reported, moving to next objective. Admiral Vecnor received confirmation that the Second Conquest Fleet was coming. War Archon Drelmoth himself would lead 200 warships to end this embarrassment. The Primitives had fought well, but the Empire's full might would crush them. Yet Vecnor felt no relief, only dread. Because every day the Primitives advanced. Every battle they learned more. Every defeat made them stronger. Lieutenant Daehyun Song stood on what used to be Seoul's City Hall. The building was half collapsed, scarred by plasma fire. But the South Korean flag still flew from the wreckage. Vorian forces had tried to take this position 6 times. 6 times they'd been driven back. They're retreating from the central district, his radio man reported. Daehyun nodded. Not a full retreat. Just repositioning. The Vorians were learning to respect human defenses. They stopped treating this like a police action and started treating it like a real war. Good. Humanity knew how to fight wars. President Yuna Park met with her generals in the bunker. The news was mixed. Millions dead. Dozens of cities destroyed. But the Vorians had stopped advancing. The war had become a stalemate. "We're holding them," General Hyun-Woo Kang reported. He'd been promoted after Captain Min-ho Lee's death. "Their forces are overextended. Our weapons are approaching parity. If we can survive the next offensive, we might actually win this." "The Second Conquest Fleet arrives in 3 weeks," President Park said. 200 warships. Can we survive that?" Silence filled the room. Nobody wanted to answer. Finally, Dr. Ji-Young Choi spoke. "We've survived everything they've thrown at us so far. We'll survive this too, because we have something they don't." "What's that?" President Park asked. "We have everything to lose." "They're fighting for conquest. We're fighting for survival. That makes us dangerous." In orbit, Admiral Vecnor composed his report to the Imperial Council. He chose his words carefully. He couldn't hide the truth anymore. Earth was supposed to fall in 72 hours. It had been 4 months. The Primitives weren't primitive anymore. He ended his report with a simple recommendation. Reclassify humanity. Current threat assessment is insufficient. Recommend Apex-level protocols. The message sent, Vecnor looked at Earth below. The planet burned in dozens of places. But it still turned. Still fought. Still refused to die. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Vecnor wondered if the Vorian Empire had made a terrible mistake. On Earth, humanity prepared for the next storm. Factories worked overtime. Soldiers trained. Scientists pushed the boundaries of what was possible. They'd been underestimated once. The Vorians wouldn't make that mistake again, but neither would humanity. The Second Conquest Fleet arrived like a nightmare made real. 200 warships emerged from hyperspace, their presence dimming the stars themselves. War Archon Drellmoth stood on his flagship's bridge, surveying the primitive world below with cold calculation. "So this is Earth," he said quietly. "The planet that embarrassed the Empire." His second-in-command nodded nervously. "Admiral Vecnor reports unusual resistance, War Archon. The humans have adapted faster than any species on record." Drellmoth's expression didn't change. "Then we will adapt faster still. Prepare full assault. I want this ended within 1 week." On Earth, every sensor screamed warnings. President Una Park watched the display showing 200 new contacts. Her hands didn't shake. She'd learned not to show fear months ago. "General Kang, status?" General Hyunwoo Kang pulled up tactical displays. "We have 48 plasma cannons operational, 72 orbital mine clusters, 600 modified satellites ready for kinetic strikes, and every soldier on Earth ready to fight." Against 200 warships? "Against 2,000 warships if necessary, Madam President. We don't quit. That's what makes us human." Drellmoth's fleet moved into formation. He studied the orbital space around Earth with professional interest. Debris fields, destroyed satellites, orbital mines. The humans had turned their own space into a weapon. Clever, primitive, but clever. "Begin clearing operations," he ordered. "Sweep the mines, destroy the weapons platforms, prepare for planetary bombardment." The Vorian fleet advanced. The orbital mines activated, launching themselves at the approaching warships. Vorian point defense systems shot most of them down, but not all. 3 frigates took damage. 1 destroyer suffered shield failure. Drellmoth frowned. The primitives were making him work for this. On the ground, Dr. Ji-young Choi watched her plasma cannons track the enemy fleet. "Wait for optimal range," she ordered. "Don't fire until they're committed." The Vorian fleet descended into low orbit, exactly where Ji-young wanted them. "Fire!" 48 plasma cannons fired simultaneously. Blue beams cut through the atmosphere, striking Vorian shields with concentrated fury. The shields held, but power readings flickered. The Vorians had to divert energy from weapons to maintain defenses. "Keep firing," Ji-young shouted. "Don't give them time to adjust." The plasma cannons fired again and again. 3 Vorian cruisers suffered shield collapse. Human-made weapons tore into alien hulls. Explosions bloomed in orbit like deadly flowers. Drellmoth watched 2 more ships die. His jaw tightened. Vecnor hadn't exaggerated. These primitives had teeth. "Return fire. Target those ground installations." The Vorian fleet unleashed devastation. Orbital bombardment rained down on plasma cannon positions. Ji-young's installation in Norway vanished in a flash of light. 17 other installations died the same way, but 30 cannons survived, hidden in mountains and underground bunkers. They kept firing. In Seoul, Colonel Dae-hyun Song received orders. The Vorian ground forces were preparing to link up with the newly arrived fleet. His mission was to stop them. "All units advance," he commanded. "Hit them before they can consolidate." Korean, Chinese, Japanese, and Russian forces attacked the Vorian positions simultaneously. It wasn't about territory anymore. It was about survival. Every Vorian soldier pinned down on Earth was 1 less soldier the fleet could use. Sergeant Minji Han led her unit through the subway tunnels. They emerged behind Vorian lines, plasma rifles blazing. The aliens had better armor and training, but humans had desperation and knowledge of their own city. The battle for Seoul became a grinding urban nightmare. Both sides took heavy casualties. Neither side retreated. In orbit, the Battle of Low Earth Orbit raged. Human satellites, modified into kinetic weapons, deorbited and slammed into Vorian ships. The impacts weren't always fatal, but they disrupted formations and damaged shields. Colonel Sun-woo Kim coordinated the orbital defense from his bunker. He watched ships die on both sides. Every human asset destroyed meant less protection. Every Vorian ship damaged meant hope. "Target their command ship," he ordered. "Everything we have." 50 remaining satellites, a dozen FTL missiles, and 6 plasma cannons all focused on War Archon Drellmoth's flagship. The combined firepower overwhelmed even military-grade Vorian shields. Drellmoth's ship survived, but barely. Hull breaches on 3 decks, shield generators damaged. The War Archon looked at the tactical display with new respect. These weren't primitives. These were survivors. Dr. Nari Tanaka worked frantically in her Tokyo laboratory. The quantum computer ran simulations constantly, looking for any edge humanity could use. She'd been awake for 50 hours straight, sustained by caffeine and terror. "Doctor, we have a pattern," one of her assistants shouted. "The Vorian hyperspace drives emit a predictable energy signature when they charge. We can detect it 5 seconds before they jump." 5 seconds. Not much warning, but enough to target them. Nari sent the data to every military installation. Within an hour, human forces were firing at Vorian ships the moment their jump drives activated. Several ships took critical damage mid-jump, tumbling out of hyperspace in pieces. The Vorian Empire had never faced an enemy that learned this fast. In Mumbai, Corporal Yunji Kowalski fought beside soldiers from 20 different nations: Indian, Brazilian, Nigerian, Australian, Canadian. Earth's defenders wore different uniforms but fought for the same cause. A Vorian dropship crashed nearby, damaged by ground fire. Yunji approached carefully. Inside, she found intact shield generators and power cells. Valuable technology. Possibly game-changing. "Secure the wreck," she ordered. "Get the tech to our engineers." This happened everywhere. Every battle became a scavenging operation. Humans couldn't outproduce the Vorian Empire, but they could out-adapt them. Engineer Junho Park worked with a team of 30 engineers, reverse engineering everything they captured. His crude plasma rifles had evolved into effective weapons. Now, he worked on shield technology. "If we can make shields for our ships, we have a chance," he muttered, manipulating holographic displays. "Just need to solve the power consumption issue." 3 days later, he did. The first human shield generator activated on a prototype fighter craft. It lasted 30 seconds before overheating. But it worked. Production began. War Archon Drellmoth reviewed his casualties with growing alarm. 1 week of fighting, 42 ships lost, 68 damaged. This was supposed to be a quick conquest. Instead, it was becoming the Empire's costliest war in centuries. He sent an encrypted message to the Imperial Council. "The humans are not conventional primitives. They possess accelerated learning capabilities. Recommend immediate classification upgrade to Apex-level threat." The response came quickly. "Recommendation denied. Complete the conquest. Use any means necessary." Drellmoth understood. The Council couldn't admit that primitives could threaten the Empire. It would make the Empire look weak to the 847 other conquered worlds. But Drellmoth knew the truth. Earth was different. Humans were different. President Una Park addressed the world from a bunker beneath the ruins of Geneva. Her face showed exhaustion, but her voice remained strong. "We've lost billions. Our cities burn. Our world bleeds. But we still stand. Every day we fight is another day we prove they were wrong about us. They expected weakness. They found strength. They expected surrender. They found warriors." Across Earth, humans listened. In bunkers and trenches, in hospitals and factories, in ruins and refugee camps. They listened and they believed. General Hyunwoo Kang studied updated intelligence reports. The Vorians controlled orbital space but paid heavily for it. They held ground territory but couldn't pacify it. They had superior technology, but humans were closing the gap. "We're reaching equilibrium," he told President Park. "Neither side can achieve decisive victory. This is becoming a war of attrition." Can we win a war of attrition? Against any other enemy? No. But the Vorians have an empire to run. 847 worlds to control. They can't afford to stay here forever. We can, because we have nowhere else to go. In space, the battle continued. Vorian ships tried to establish stable orbits. Human defenses made every orbit dangerous. Mines, debris fields, kamikaze satellites, FTL missiles, plasma cannons. Earth's orbital space had become a death trap. Dr. Ji-Young Choi activated another hidden plasma cannon. This one was in Antarctica, buried under ice. The Vorians didn't know it existed until it fired. A Vorian cruiser died, its shields overwhelmed by the surprise attack. Drellmoth realized he was fighting a guerrilla war in space, in orbit, on the ground. The humans refused to fight conventionally. They struck from unexpected angles, using their own planet as a weapon. Frustration warred with professional admiration in the War Archon's mind. These humans should have died months ago. Instead, they evolved. Lieutenant Daehyun Song stood in the ruins of Seoul's City Hall. The building had been destroyed and rebuilt 3 times during the war. Each time, humans planted their flag in the rubble. He looked at his soldiers. Most were wounded, all were exhausted, none would surrender. "Hold the line," he said simply. They nodded. What else was there to say? War Archon Drellmoth made his decision. He would win this war, but not through conquest, through annihilation. If Earth wouldn't surrender, Earth would burn. He ordered the activation of the planet killer weapons. The planet killer weapons powered up with a sound like dying stars. War Archon Drellmoth watched the charging sequence with cold determination. He'd given Earth every chance to surrender. Now he would give them oblivion. "Target major population centers," he ordered. "If we cannot conquer this world, we will ensure no one else can." On Earth, every sensor detected the energy buildup. Dr. Ji-Young Choi's hands shook as she read the numbers. "They're charging weapons we've never seen before. Power levels are off the scale. If those fire—" She didn't finish. Everyone understood. Earth would become a dead world. President Yuna Park looked at her advisors. General Hyunwoo Kang, Dr. Nari Tanaka, Colonel Sunwoo Kim. These people had kept humanity alive for 8 months of hell. Now they faced the end. "Options?" she asked quietly. "We have one chance," Nari said. "The FTL missiles. If we can hit their flagship's power core during weapon charge, the feedback might destroy the entire ship." "Might? 70% chance of failure, Madam President. But it's the only option we have." President Park nodded. "Do it." Nari transmitted launch codes to every FTL missile platform still operational. 30 missiles prepared to launch. 30 chances to save the world. War Archon Drellmoth saw the missile launches on his tactical display. Primitive desperation. His point defense systems could handle 30 missiles easily. "Intercept and destroy," he commanded. "Don't let them interrupt the weapon charge." The missiles streaked through space, moving faster than light in short bursts. Vorian point defense fired. 20 missiles died instantly. 5 more succumbed to proximity mines. 3 were destroyed by patrol fighters. 2 missiles reached the flagship. 1 impacted the shields and detonated harmlessly. The other, through luck or divine intervention, struck during a shield reset cycle. It penetrated the hull and detonated inside the power distribution center. Drellmoth's ship shuddered. Alarms screamed. The planet killer weapon's charge sequence reversed catastrophically. Energy meant to destroy a planet backfed through the ship's systems. "Evacuate the ship," Drellmoth roared. "All hands, abandon!" The flagship exploded. The detonation lit up Earth's orbit like a second sun. Debris and fire scattered across space. War Archon Drellmoth died instantly, along with 3,000 crew members. The Second Conquest Fleet had lost its commander. On Earth, billions watched the explosion. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then cheering erupted across the planet. In bunkers and trenches, in hospitals and refugee camps, humans celebrated. They'd killed the enemy flagship. They'd survived. But Colonel Sunwoo Kim didn't celebrate. He watched the tactical display and saw what others missed. The Vorian fleet wasn't retreating. They were regrouping. Angry. Ready to avenge their War Archon. "This isn't over," he said quietly. The surviving Vorian commanders held an emergency meeting via secure transmission. Vice Archon Malthar took command. His first order was revenge. "Glass the planet," he snarled. "Kill them all." But Admiral Vecnor, still commanding the original fleet, spoke up. Vice Archon, we should reconsider. We've already lost 58 ships total. The humans are... The humans are primitives who got lucky, Malthar interrupted. We will crush them and move on. Prepare for full orbital bombardment. Vecnor said nothing more, but he thought plenty. These weren't lucky primitives. These were apex predators defending their home. Lieutenant Daehyun Song received new orders. Every soldier on Earth got the same message. The Vorians were coming with everything they had. This was the final battle. All units, he transmitted to his troops. We fought for 8 months, bled for 8 months, lost billions, but we're still here, still fighting. Today we show them why you never corner a human being. Because we don't know how to quit. His soldiers checked weapons and prepared positions. Some were professional soldiers. Some were civilians who'd learned to fight. All were determined. Sergeant Minji Han looked at her unit. Young and old, male and female. Every continent represented. Whatever happens, she said, we made them bleed for it. We made them remember us. Her soldiers nodded grimly. The Vorian fleet descended. Every ship. Every weapon. They would burn Earth to bedrock. But engineer Junho Park had one more trick. Working nonstop for 72 hours, his team had modified 50 fighter craft with human-made shields and plasma weapons. They weren't as good as Vorian fighters, but they could fly. Launch all fighters, General Kang ordered. Give them hell. 50 human fighters rose to meet 200 alien warships. Insane odds, suicidal odds. But the pilots flew anyway. Corporal Yunji Kowalski piloted one of those fighters. She'd gone from ground soldier to pilot in 6 weeks of intense training. Her hands gripped the controls as enemy ships filled her screen. For Earth, she whispered, and fired. The Battle of Earth's last stand began. Human fighters swarmed the Vorian fleet like angry bees. They were slower, weaker, less durable. But they were fearless. They targeted engine clusters, shield generators, weapon systems. When their weapons ran out, they rammed. Yunji's fighter took a plasma hit. Her shield failed. Her left engine died. She aimed at a Vorian cruiser's shield generator and hit full throttle. Tell my parents I love them, she transmitted. Then impact. Her fighter's reactor breached. The explosion took out the cruiser's shield array. 3 other human fighters exploited the opening. The cruiser died. This happened across the battle space. Human pilots traded their lives for Vorian ships. The exchange rate was terrible. 5 human fighters for every Vorian ship. But humanity had always paid in blood. On the ground, Dr. Ji-young Choi fired her plasma cannons continuously. Barrels overheated. Power systems strained. She didn't care. Fire everything. Die fighting. Vice Archon Malthar watched his fleet take casualties and felt ice in his veins. The humans weren't just resisting. They were winning. How? How were primitives defeating the Empire's finest? Dr. Nari Tanaka activated her final weapon. Project Prometheus had one more gift. The quantum computer had designed an electromagnetic pulse weapon specifically calibrated to Vorian shield frequencies. It was untested. It might not work. It might kill everyone in a 100-kilometer radius. She activated it anyway. The pulse radiated from Tokyo. Vorian shields across Asia flickered and died. For 30 seconds, the Vorian fleet was vulnerable. Ground forces exploited ruthlessly. Plasma cannons fired without opposition. Missiles found targets. The Vorian Asia fleet took devastating casualties. Malthar's command ship was among them. Shields failed. Human weapons tore the ship apart. The Vice Archon died screaming defiance. The Vorian fleet had lost 2 commanders in one battle. Admiral Vecnor found himself in command by default. He looked at the casualties. 87 ships lost, almost half the combined fleet, thousands dead, and Earth still fought. He remembered a report from months ago, a recommendation he'd dismissed. Reclassify humanity, apex-level threat. He'd been wrong to ignore it. President Una Park watched the battle from her bunker. Reports came in. Millions more dead. Cities burning. But the Vorian fleet was breaking. They're retreating, General Kang reported, disbelief in his voice. The Vorian fleet is pulling back. Nobody celebrated yet. They'd learned not to hope too soon. In orbit, Admiral Vecnor made the hardest decision of his life. He could continue fighting, probably win through sheer attrition. But the cost? 847 worlds watched. If the Empire paid this much blood to conquer primitives, what did that say about the Empire's strength? He opened a communication channel to Earth. "This is Admiral Vecnor of the Vorian Empire. I request negotiation." The words tasted like ash. But they were necessary. President Park took the call personally. "Admiral, you want to talk?" "I want to end this war before both our species bleed out," Vecnor said honestly. "You've proven your strength. We acknowledge it. Let us find terms." President Park smiled without humor. "Here are our terms, Admiral. Leave. Never come back. Tell your empire that Earth is off limits. The Council will never accept those terms. Then we'll keep killing you until they do." The transmission ended. Admiral Vecnor sat in silence. He thought of home, of his family, of the 847 worlds the Empire controlled. And he thought of Earth, the world that refused to be conquered. He sent a message to the Imperial Council. One word: withdrawal. On Earth, humans watched the Vorian fleet begin to leave orbit. Slowly, carefully, still ready to fight if attacked. General Kang looked at President Park. "Should we let them go?" "Yes," she said. "We've proven our point. Let them leave. Let them tell the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity." The war wasn't over, but Earth had survived. The Vorian fleet left Earth's orbit slowly, like wounded animals retreating from a predator. Admiral Vecnor watched his home world shrink on the view screen. Not home. Earth. The planet that had broken his fleet and his certainty. Behind him, the surviving ships limped into formation. 113 vessels remained from the original 300. Nearly 200 ships destroyed. Thousands of soldiers dead. All to conquer one primitive planet. They had failed. Commander Thexel approached quietly. "Admiral, the Council is demanding your immediate report." Vecnor nodded tiredly. "Tell them the truth. Earth cannot be conquered. Not by us. Not by anyone who values their lives." On Earth, President Una Park stood in the ruins of what used to be the United Nations building. The structure was half collapsed, scarred by plasma fire and orbital bombardment. But the flags of Earth's nations still flew from makeshift poles. General Hyun Wukong stood beside her, looking at the sky where the last Vorian ships vanished into hyperspace. "They're really leaving." "Yes," President Park said, "but they'll be back someday. Maybe not them, but someone. The galaxy knows we exist now." "Then we'll be ready." President Park smiled slightly. "Yes, we will." Across Earth, the celebration was muted. Too many dead. Too much destroyed. Billions of graves needed digging. Cities needed rebuilding. The world had survived, but barely. In Seoul, Colonel Daehyun Song walked through streets he barely recognized. Buildings were rubble, roads were craters. But people were already cleaning up, already rebuilding. Humans didn't stay down long. Sergeant Minji Han found him among the ruins of the old city hall. "Colonel, orders?" Daehyun looked at the flag still flying over the wreckage. "Help the civilians. Rebuild. We won the war. Now we win the peace." Minji nodded. It would take years, decades maybe, but they would restore their city, their world. In the Rocky Mountain bunker, Major Suman Ryu oversaw the transition from war production to reconstruction. Factories that made missiles would make construction equipment. Plants that built weapons would build homes. "How long until we're back to pre-invasion population levels?" one of her assistants asked. Suman looked at the casualty reports. 3 billion dead. 50 years, maybe more, but we'll get there. Dr. Ji-Young Choi stood in the ruins of her CERN laboratory. Everything was destroyed. Years of research gone. But the knowledge remained. Humanity had learned so much in 8 months of war. She activated her portable computer and began writing. Someone needed to document what they'd learned. About Vorian technology. About plasma weapons and shields and FTL drives. Future generations needed this knowledge. Engineer Junho Park was already applying that knowledge. In a factory beneath Tokyo, he oversaw the construction of humanity's first true starship. Not a converted cargo vessel. A purpose-built warship using both human and captured Vorian technology. When will she be ready? President Park asked during an inspection tour. Junho smiled proudly. 6 months, Madam President. We're calling her the Remembrance, so we never forget what we survived. President Park touched the hull plating, still warm from fabrication. And after Remembrance? We're already designing 5 more, different classes, fighters, cruisers, carriers. In 10 years, Earth will have a fleet. Good. The Vorians proved one thing. We're not alone out here. We need to defend ourselves. Dr. Nari Tanaka led the research division at the new Tokyo Institute. Her project Prometheus had saved humanity during the war. Now it would prepare humanity for the future. We're reverse engineering everything, she explained to visiting scientists. Vorian computers, power systems, medical technology. They had centuries to develop this. We're learning it in years. One scientist asked the obvious question. Can we really match them? Nari smiled. We already did. We beat them. Now we just need to surpass them. In space, the remnants of the orbital battle floated in silent testimony. Destroyed ships. Human and Vorian. Colonel Sunwoo Kim led salvage operations, recovering both technology and bodies. Every piece we recover makes us stronger, he said. Every fallen soldier we bring home gets the honor they deserve. Salvage crews worked carefully, respectfully. The debris field was a graveyard, but also a treasure trove of advanced technology. Admiral Vecnor reached the Vorian Imperial Council's chambers, expecting punishment. Instead, he found fear. The council members looked at him like he carried a plague. You lost 200 ships to primitives, the High Counselor said quietly. How? Vecnor met their eyes steadily. They weren't primitives. They were survivors. They learned faster than any species we've encountered, adapted to our tactics, reverse engineered our technology. We underestimated them. Fatally. Recommendation? Quarantine Earth. Mark it as forbidden territory. Never engage humanity again, because if we do, we'll lose. The council members looked at each other. Finally, the High Counselor nodded. Agreed. Earth is hereby classified as Apex-level threat. No Vorian ship is to enter their system. In the Empire's vast archives, Earth received a unique designation. Threat Assessment, Extinction Class. Warning, species capable of rapid technological advancement. Exhibits unprecedented adaptability, extreme danger. 5 years passed. Earth's cities rose from the ruins. Not the same as before. Better. Stronger. Built with lessons learned in blood. Seoul gleamed with new construction. Lieutenant Colonel Daehyun Song walked streets that hummed with life again. Children played in parks built over old battlefields. He watched them and smiled. This was what they'd fought for. Major General Minji Han commanded the Asian defense sector now. She stood at the observation deck of Seoul's new orbital station, watching construction crews work on the latest warship. How many ships now? Her aide asked. 42, Minji answered. In 5 years, and we're building faster every year. In orbit, the Solar Defense Fleet conducted exercises. Human-built ships with human crews, equipped with weapons that combined Earth engineering with captured alien technology. Corporal Yunji Kowalski hadn't died when she rammed the Vorian cruiser. Her fighter's escape pod had functioned. Now, Colonel Yunji Kowalski trained the next generation of pilots at Earth's first military academy. The Vorians thought we were weak, she told her cadets. They learned otherwise. But there are other species out there, other threats. We train not for the last war, but for the next one. Her students listened intently. Most had been children during the invasion. They grew up in a world that knew it wasn't alone, that new threats existed beyond their sky. Dr. Ji-Young Choi became Earth's chief scientist, coordinating research across the planet. Her team had cracked the secrets of Vorian shield technology, power generation, and faster-than-light travel. Humanity was catching up. Engineer Junho Park stood in a shipyard at Lagrange Point Station, watching his latest creation take shape. The Remembrance had been first. Now he designed the Defiance, the Resilience, the Unbroken. Each ship more advanced than the last. "We're approaching Vorian technology levels," he reported to President Park, now in her second 5-year term. "How long until we surpass them?" 10 years, maybe less. "We're innovating faster than they ever did." Dr. Nari Tanaka's research bore fruit in unexpected ways. Vorian medical technology helped cure diseases. Their power systems made clean energy abundant. Their computing advanced artificial intelligence. The war had cost billions of lives, but the captured technology saved billions more. President Una Park stood before the new United Earth Assembly. Every nation had representatives now. The invasion had united humanity in ways diplomacy never could. "5 years ago, we faced extinction," she said. "Today, we stand stronger than ever." The Vorians thought we were primitives. They learned the truth. We are humanity. We adapt. We survive. We overcome. Applause filled the chamber. Across the galaxy, in the Vorian Empire's intelligence division, analysts tracked Earth's progress with growing alarm. The primitives now fielded a fleet, built orbital stations, developed weapons matching Vorian standards. "They're advancing exponentially," one analyst reported. "At current rates, they'll match our technology in a decade." The intelligence director sent an update to the Imperial Council. "Earth remains classified as apex threat. Recommend continued avoidance." Other species took notice. The galactic community learned what happened when the Vorian Empire tried to conquer Earth. Lost 200 ships, retreated in defeat. Humanity's reputation spread. The species that fought back. The world that wouldn't break. In the Solar Defense Fleet headquarters, Admiral Sunwoo Kim reviewed deployment schedules. 42 warships now. 60 planned within 2 years. Humanity was building an armada. "Admiral," his aide reported, "long-range sensors detected an unidentified vessel at the edge of the system." Sunwoo's expression hardened. "Not Vorian?" "No, sir. Different configuration. Unknown species." "Hail them. Let's find out if they're friends or enemies." The unknown ship received the hail. Inside, Captain Curie of the Delton Commerce Fleet read the message with interest. "Humans. The species that defeated the Vorians." She composed a careful response. "Greetings, humans. We come in peace. We wish to trade." Admiral Sunwoo read the reply and smiled. "Trade, not conquest." "Good. Permission granted. Welcome to Earth space." First contact with a friendly species. Perhaps the galaxy wasn't all enemies. On Earth, construction continued. Monuments rose to honor the fallen. Dr. Junho Park's son, also named Junho, entered engineering school, dreaming of designing ships like his father. Colonel Daehyun Song retired, his duty done. He opened a small restaurant in Seoul, serving food to veterans and civilians alike. They shared stories of the war, remembered fallen friends, celebrated survival. Former Sergeant Min Ji-han visited often, now a 3-star general. They talked about old battles and new peace. President Una Park's term would end in 3 years. She'd led humanity through its darkest time. Now she would help guide them into their brightest future. In classrooms across Earth, children learned about the invasion, about courage and sacrifice, about the day humanity proved they belonged among the stars. And in space, construction crews worked on humanity's largest ship yet, the Undefeated. A kilometer-long battleship that would serve as the Solar Defense Fleet's flagship. When finished, it would carry this message on its hull. They underestimated humanity once. No one will make that mistake again. The Vorian Empire had tried to conquer Earth. They'd expected an easy victory. Instead, they found warriors. Humanity had survived. adapted, grown stronger. The galaxy had learned a simple truth: never underestimate the species from Earth. Because humanity doesn't surrender, humanity doesn't quit, humanity fights, and humanity wins.